Amazon brand owners. Welcome back to another episode of Amazon suspension trends. We've seen numerous new types of problems last few weeks, last few months. So there'll be more of these coming at you very, very soon. We've seen multiple permutations of each use case, which has been great for us to pick up signs of what Amazon's doing enforcement wise, but also great for brand owners like you to kind of see what's coming when you listen in on this. Keep an eye out for things that might happen to your listings, to your account, sometimes oddball messaging, sometimes random listing takedowns, restricted product messages, policy warnings. We've seen performance notifications and account health that have been all over the map lately. So could be indicative of Amazon tinkering with things a little bit, but also just enforcement mistakes, messaging mistakes, compounding confusion and misunderstanding. And of course, as we all know, sometimes a misinterpreted message from Amazon leads to an erroneous appeal, and that just gets things spinning in yet another direction. So we're trying to pack these with as much details and information as possible, doing a bit more case study type format. So I'm going to start today's video with a dietary supplement brand that we were working with. Very abruptly saw listing removals, despite having no active violations on their account health page. Very sudden, very lightning strike in nature. We've seen a lot more of that. So keep your eyes peeled for late nights and weekends, not just competitor attacks happening when you're asleep anymore. Sometimes it's random bot actions or AI flags, whatever they might be. It could be different causes. But in this particular case, the follow-up contact with Amazon, the brand owner determined that from talking to Amazon reps that disallowed claims were considered present on the listing. They weren't on the listing. They were alleging that they were in the back end and they weren't easy to spot. That's probably part one. Look at all international marketplaces, anywhere that you might be listing those items, because claims, of course, are compliant or not, depending on which marketplace you sell in. Laws differ between regions, of course. Part of the problem was the confusion on Amazon's side. They said that there were disallowed claims in the first pass, and we dug into that. Where are the disallowed claims? Then Amazon changed its story, and this created probably a couple of additional days of research and probing and back and forth in terms of why were they asking for compliance documentation again? Not always readily apparent why. You can't assume why they're suddenly asking for documents and tests that you've already submitted. In this case, it was asking for various certificates of analysis or COAs for supplements. I think it was a knee-jerk reaction by somebody at Amazon who was just habitually used to asking supplement brands for copies of COAs or for compliance documentation. They probably didn't take the time to study what was going on. Maybe they didn't research by looking at the account annotations what had actually triggered the flag or the restriction. And they were simply used to asking for copies of compliance documents just to say something, just to make it look like they were researching it or looking into it. And unfortunately, as time goes on, we're seeing these types of errors more and more. It had nothing to do with previously selected or submitted compliance documentation or selective review of compliance documents. That was a red herring. Unfortunately, we understood that and diagnosed it quickly. I've noticed that a lot of brands doing this type of work themselves, and sometimes even the agencies that they're working with, assume that whatever they're hearing from the Amazon side is gold and unimpeachable and accurate. And then they start running as fast as they can in the direction that Amazon sent them in, only to discover that they shouldn't have believed it. They should have taken it with a grain of salt, and they have to run all the way back to start the entire process over. So we've done these so many times, we usually don't have that as a problem, and we don't waste a lot of days and weeks going in the wrong direction, which of course is costing the brand owner sales. I can't tell you how many supplement sellers or sellers, let's say, of all kinds of consumables have come to us after making diagnostic errors in the beginning that led to probably several erroneous appeals, many lost days of sales. None of that was necessary, in my opinion, after reviewing it. So sticking with the current client that we're talking about, day or so later, we diagnosed that the restriction was, in fact, based on the original flag, the original cause that led to the warning, restricted claims and A+ content. Common occurrence. It'd be great if they had just stuck to that from the beginning instead of asking for compliance documentation. And we were able to dig through category listing reports, dig through some flat files to determine that some non-English language listings did contain restricted claims in other regional marketplaces, which of course shouldn't necessarily impact your US listings, but often we see that it does. It doesn't necessarily pop up and wave at you. You have to do a little bit of digging. If you're not managing your own listings, or if an agency's doing it, make sure they understand the risks of this type of flag, because it can be very damaging. Before you even get to the appeal process, just trying to find out what went wrong can take 2 or 3 days, which if you're selling $10,000 a day or a week of a product, I mean, you're losing thousands of dollars before you've even appealed it. And then if you appeal it poorly or wrongly, you're costing yourself even more, as 2 or 3 days stretches to 2 or 3 weeks. I can't tell you how often that happens, and I'm sure I'll do subsequent videos covering other case studies where we've taken something on where we weren't hired 2 or 3 days in, it was 3 weeks later, going on a month, and lots of cash had been burned at that point. Avoidable mistakes hadn't been avoided. There's no charitable way of saying it. Certain high-risk keywords are inserted into listings by brand owners or agencies all the time to try to boost sales, or in a false belief that Amazon won't catch it, or just out of misunderstandings of local laws and compliance guidelines for listing certain types or categories of products on Amazon. We've been doing these appeal cases successfully for years. In many instances, they're cases that we probably wouldn't have worked on if these had been set up with a knowledge of whether it's in-house or working with an agency or getting somebody to do a compliance review in advance. If that review had taken place, the problem probably wouldn't have been triggered in the first place. So I understand sometimes there's a rush to judgment and people are looking to enhance their sales, especially in today's highly competitive Amazon marketplace. But these types of tricks or solutions, they do more harm than good. And you end up losing a lot more than you would have gained in sales anyway when you make these kinds of mistakes. So fortunately, we were able to, once the disallowed claims and terms were cleaned up on the back end, flat files were updated, and of course, working with Amazon catalog teams, we were able to fix this within the same week that we started it. So really just 3-4 days in, we had updated the listing content, resubmitted the appeal, and fixed the original problem. Now, you do still have to make sure that you're cleaning up terms, back-end keywords, any content that may be floating around in different regional marketplaces. And you have to keep a keen eye on your account health dashboard just in case something gets auto-flagged by Amazon systems. This should be something that if you don't manage to avoid it on the way in, it can be resolved quickly and you're out of it in a few days, not more than necessarily 5 or 6 days. And once you get into weeks, it means something's going wrong on your appeal strategy, or, if you hire out a firm, we've seen a lot of people hiring attorneys to do this. The attorneys don't even necessarily look up the relevant or applicable laws, or most of them that I've seen don't even know who handles compliance escalations at Amazon. Obviously, we do understand that, which is why we handle a lot of those cases, and we are not attorneys. But you don't need an attorney for a case that involves Amazon's compliance teams if you know how they escalate and how they operate. So we've seen those types of errors. And of course, in the case of attorneys, they often do copy and paste legal letters that are off topic or using boilerplate content, or they just create new, fresh content, which makes it very clear to anyone at Amazon reading the letter that the attorney handed it off to their paralegal, who handed it off to some AI program they're using, and the content in the letter doesn't match the situation. So they're not even in the same ballpark. Big waste of time, big waste of money. And the price tag for what they were charged in those cases was not small either. So they not only did not fix the problem. They blew a lot of cash for nothing. And then we came in to clean it up. So with this particular dietary supplement brand, happy ending, got it fixed in a few days. That's not necessarily typical with everyone who's doing their own escalations or having their agencies do it. So if you have any questions on this or a parallel similar case, feel free to mention it in the comment section or just reach out to us at eCommerce Chris. We'd be happy to evaluate and give you some guidance. Thanks for listening.